Namaste everyone once again. Welcome to the class today.
Namaste.
Namaste, namaste. So let me share my screen. So last time we talked a lot about whom? Shungas. Yes, we talked about the
Yes.
Shunga Empire and how the great Shungas repelled the invaders. Today we will continue that beyond Shungas, and we shall understand a little bit about these names that you often hear: Yavana, Shaka, Pahlava, and Parthians. In English, in your history books, you will read these names. Yavana is Greeks, so they are called Greeks. Let me do one thing. Let me turn off my video because it otherwise affects my bandwidth. Can you all hear me still?
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you. So, Yavana, this word is used in Purana, Mahabharata, Ramayana, etc. To refer to Greeks, not Ramayana, I'm sorry, I said Ramayana. Yavana. And in fact, the Greek language itself, in Greek language and even in Persian language, they use this word Yona. Instead of Yavana, they call it Yona to refer to themselves. So that's the ethnicity of the Greeks. But in our ancient epics, in the Puranas, we hear about several other such ethnicities or people. Especially, there is a reference very often in Puranas to something called Panchaganaha. Panchaganaha means 5 people or 5 races or 5 ethnicities. And in detail, in fact, several Puranas in detail explain who these people are. So the 5 names are Pahlavas, Shaka, Yavana, Kamboj, and Parada or Paradas. These 5 together are considered by the Puranas and Mahabharata, even Ramayana mentions some of them, as nothing but Indians. They were Indians who were expelled by the other Indians. So they were considered kings and warriors and kshatriyas who over time developed bad habits. They became cruel, they became adharmika, they started doing all bad things, and they were expelled by the other kings. So Ramayana, for example, talks about uh, uh, King Sagara, who was an ancestor of Sri Ramachandra. So King Sagara, it is mentioned in Ramayana, fought and expelled Shakas. Okay, and perhaps a couple of other of these Panchagana. So these Panchagana, who were originally nothing but Indians, they were pushed out in very, very ancient times out of India. That much is very clearly mentioned, documented by Purana, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and also, in fact, by their own histories. That is very well recorded. In Mahabharata, for example, it is very clearly mentioned that Shaka and Yavana, etc., they actually participated in the battle of Kurukshetra, Mahabharata war. They participated in. Can somebody guess and tell me which side they were on, Kauravas or Pandavas? Take your guess, it's okay.
Pandavas.
Mm, no.
Pandavas.
So majority is saying Pandavas, but right answer is Kauravas. They
Both
were
of
all,
them.
they, yeah, no, they
Both
all,
of them.
Both of them. Okay, that's a better answer, more nuanced. Both of them. But majority of them were on the Kauravas side. So we have Mahabharata talking about especially Shaka as a very brave warriors who. Go ahead. Somebody saying something? Okay. So in Mahabharata, they all participated. In your history books, you will hear the name. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm so sorry, I
Yes.
lost my network there for a moment. So, what was the last thing that you heard me say?
I heard you say
That the Panchagana
Raksas
were
are
on
on
both
what
the
side
Pandavas
of
and
Mahabharata?
Kauravas.
Right.
the Pandavas and Kauravas, which side they took.
Which side they took? Most of them took Kaurava side. Okay. Although they were perhaps on both sides, but according to Mahabharata, most of them took uh, Duryodhana's side. Okay. So these in the modern, in the Western historical literature, these people are called Shaka, for example, are called Scythians. Have you heard this word, Scythians? Scythians are a very powerful empire in on the borders of Europe in Central Asia, around the Caspian Sea and so on. So just to give you the idea, the Scythian Empire, Ukraine, Romania, Bulgaria, all of these Central Asia, right from here, this huge area is considered Scythians. Okay, why I'm saying you all, telling you all these things, because this is very important for you to understand. These were not truly foreigners from ethnicity standpoint. They were Indians who went out of India, who conquered large parts of the known world of that time. They went um, up to China on one side. They went to Central Asia, all of the Central Asia steppes they conquered. They conquered all the way even deep into the Eastern Europe. Okay. Now these people.
Sarveshji, are you sharing your screen?
Okay, I was not. You can see my screen now?
Nope.
Yeah.
Yes. No.
Yes.
Okay. So these people, I actually showed you a map also. So let me go back. So this is the area where you see this pin, this location, red dot. That was the homeland, you can say, of the historical Shakas after they went outside India, did all the adventure. Finally, this area in what is today Turkmenistan, etc. This became the homeland of the brave, very fierce warriors called Shakas. Okay, but then around 300 BCE, just as the Greeks were invading under Alexander, the Iran and India, Chinese, one tribe from China, they pushed these Shakas um, out of that region and they went elsewhere. So these people, Shaka, they are often mixed up in your Western literature with Scythians. But the original sources, even the Greek sources and old European sources, such as Megasthenes and Pliny and all these writers, they clearly say that Scythians are much larger group. Shaka are one part of it. The Eastern Scythians, at best, if you can call them, they are Shaka. Now these Shaka people, they were legendary warriors. They used to ride on horses. They used to have very good aim, and they used to shoot arrows while riding the horses from one hand. And their dress was something very peculiar. So the cap you see in this painting, it's a European painting, it's a modern painting depicting a Shaka warrior in Europe. His hat, that was a typical dress of a Shaka person. So Shaka warriors, not only warriors, all the Shaka, they were kind of recognized for wearing that kind of a dress. Persian sources tell us that there were 3 types of Shaka, 3 places where they were found. One of these Shakas are called Tigra Khauda. And why I say Tigra Khauda, it comes from a Sanskrit word. Tigma, in Sanskrit, Tigma means sharp. And Khauda, Tigra Khauda in Persian sources, they are called for the type of cap they wear. And then there is Hauma Varga. Now, as you know, Ha and Sa in Persian, they confuse that. So Hauma is nothing but Sauma. So Sanskrit word is Sauma Varga. So these were Soma worshipping Shakas. And finally, last one, a name that we get of Shaka, they're called Tar Darya Shakas, or Shaka Tar Darya. That's how they are referred as. Now again, Tar Darya, it means from the near ocean or near sea, and Darya may also mean river. So the Shakas who were around Caspian Sea, they were called Tar Darya Shakas. So as I said, they were pushed out by the Chinese, especially people called Yu Qi in around 150 BCE, just as Shunga, Emperor Pushyamitra was perhaps establishing the great Shunga Empire. The Shaka were being pushed by the Chinese. So when they were pushed from out of their homeland in China, they first went closer to Afghanistan. So again, if you look at this map, they came southwards, came to the borders of Afghanistan. Can somebody tell me who was ruling in this Afghanistan area back then? Of course, it was not called Afghanistan. It was called Gandhar, etc. and Kamboj. Any guess who was ruling in this area?
Shakuni.
Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great was dead more than 200 years back.
Mauryas.
Mauryas had just finished ruling all that area.
Buddhist monks?
Hmm?
What about the Buddhist monks?
Thus,
Yeah, Buddhist monks were there all over this place, sure.
The Gupta.
No, 150 BCE, come on. Around 150 BCE, who was ruling this area? Who was ruling in India, North India, 150 BCE? That is correct. That is correct. I just said Shunga rule was in the North India, but the far northwestern India, no, he was not. He defeated, as if you remember, last class, he defeated the Greeks, pushed them out of Punjab and areas beyond Indus River. But then Greeks went back to this place in Afghanistan, right? So Greeks were ruling Afghanistan, Indo-Greeks. You remember, right at this time, there was a Greek ambassador in the Shunga emperor's court, Heliodorus, who constructed the famous Garuda Dhwaja or Garuda Stambha in a city called Vidisha, which tells that he calls himself a devotee of Krishna in the inscription on that Heliodorus pillar. Yeah. So all of that is when this was happening, maybe a little earlier than that, around 150 BCE. Heliodorus is more like 70, 80 BCE. Okay, so this is older than that. But Greeks were ruling, Indo-Greeks they are called. They were Indianized Greeks. So they were wearing dresses much like Indians. They were Hindus and Buddhists. They were, of course, their coins give you Prakrita and Greek language bilingual coins were there. And they were just like Indians. Okay, so they are called Indo-Greeks. They were ruling Afghanistan. So Shakas, they invaded Afghanistan, but Greeks defeated them. Then they invaded Iran. So here they went further south after they could not defeat the Greeks. They went to Iran. Now here in the eastern Iran, this area, there was a great kingdom for a long time by Parthians. They are called Parthians. They are also people mentioned in our Puranas, etc. Okay, and they invaded them. Ultimately, after a struggle of a lot of time, in fact, two of the Parthian kings died over the decades in those battles. Ultimately, the Parthians and Shaka, they became almost like a composite people. Shaka became employees of Parthians in Iran, etc. And meanwhile, the Indian politics continued happening. Shunga were strong, but ultimately Shunga also lost power, as I briefly mentioned last time. The last Shunga emperor was killed. Does somebody remember how the last Shunga emperor was killed?
He was watching a play and then someone assassinated him.
That is correct. He was watching a drama, yeah, and then somebody assassinated him. And that story is mentioned in a couple of very old Sanskrit works. And it is said that, that whole thing can be very interesting story. But anyway, the last Shunga king, when he was murdered, a new kingdom called Karnava, okay, that Karnava king dynasty had started. All of that politics was happening in India. So India was politically not that unified at that time. So ultimately Shaka, working with Parthians, established their rule in the what is today Pakistan area, Sindh to Punjab. This whole area where today Pakistan is, maybe on the borders of Gujarat also. So these Shaka ultimately established their strength in this area. Okay, there are a lot of coins which are found of the Shakas. There are several names of Shaka kings mentioned. Vanones, this name, Vanones, you might hear, he was perhaps one of the earliest Shaka kings. A lot of coins in his name are found. But at this point, let us look at this important concept of the beginning of the Vikrama Samvat, which is the Hindu calendar that has been followed and is followed even today, called Vikrama Samvat. Has anybody heard this name, Vikrama Samvat? Yeah, can somebody tell me if
Yes.
you heard? Yeah, Vikrama Samvat. Samvat literally means the year or the calendar. Okay, and Vikrama is the name that this Samvat is referred with, and it refers to, I'll come in just a moment what it refers to, but Vikrama Samvat is 57 years before the Common Era. Okay, so Vikram Samvat, if today is 2020, this year currently is 2020, can somebody tell me what would be the Vikram Samvat right now? Can you calculate and tell me?
2077.
That is correct. 27/7, absolutely correct. For a couple of months it may be 27/7 or 27/8, okay, depending upon the month. But yes, generally you can just add 57 to the English Western calendar year and you will get the Vikram Samvat. So 27/7 would generally be correct answer. And there is one more calendar, very important calendar called Shakabd calendar or Shaka calendar simply. Shaka Samvat or Shakabd Samvat. Okay, what does this refer to, Shaka Samvat? So you should know that official calendar of India is actually not Vikram Samvat, it is Shakabd Samvat only. Okay, so official calendar that is used by the government of India is Shakabd Samvat, and Shaka Samvat happens 78 years after the Common Era. So do you understand that? 78 years after the Common Era starts the Shaka or the Shakabd Samvat. Yeah. So today, if it is year 2020. What is the year right now in Shaka calendar? Can somebody tell me?
1942.
1942. Yep, that's correct. So month and date will remain the same between Vikrama and Shaka Samvat. Whatever is the month, whatever is the tithi, that will remain the same. But the year number, that will switch between the Vikrama and the Shaka Samvat. So now you might ask the question, what is this Vikrama Samvat? What does it refer to? So it's very important for you to understand that there are a lot of calendars, as you know, that are followed. So Muslims, for example, follow what is known as Hijri calendar, Hijri, Hijri calendar. Okay, for them, the biggest event in the history was related to their prophet Muhammad. So the date when there was something in his life when he left a city called Makkah and he went to a city called Medina. That event is called Hajj, and the year that happened, from there they start counting their calendar, and therefore that calendar is called Hijri calendar. Similarly, the Western calendar that is most popularly followed, we call it Common Era 2020 current year. According to Western history, when did that start? Can somebody tell me what they say when it started?
Ever since
the year zero.
there was a man named Christ, he was born, that's when it starts.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. So this calendar, Western calendar, we may call it Common Era or whatever, it actually starts with the supposed birth of Jesus, or actually 3 years before then or something like that. But it is related to Jesus Christ's birth. Okay. So this calendar that is followed, called Common Era, it starts with Jesus Christ's birth. So Vikram Samvat and Shaka Samvat also must have some historical basis to them. Is it not? What great event took place that Hindus remember those dates? So let's talk.
Vikramaditya.
Absolutely correct. Vikramaditya. Vikramaditya, it is related with. But I want you to remember this numbers 57 and 78. If you want to calculate Vikram Samvat, you simply add 57 to current Western year. And if you want to calculate the Shaka Samvat, you detract how much? 78 out of the current year. And you will get both Vikrama and Shaka Samvat years. Any questions about this calculation before we proceed?
Is it the same Vikramaditya from the Vikram Betal stories?
We will come to that.
Isn't it incorrect right now on the Shaka thing?
Is it incorrect? Oh, it is actually, sorry. Yeah, it should be minus. That is incorrect. Thank you for pointing out. Absolutely right. This is incorrect. Yeah, you need to reduce 78 from the current year. Good catch. Okay. So this Vikram Samvat is absolutely related to a very famous legendary personality called Vikramaditya. Do all of you know what those pictures that you see on the screen talk about?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you? So how many of you have heard Singhasan Battisi or Singhasan? So 32. There will be a throne and there will be 32 statues attached to the throne, and a king would try to ascend the throne. Have you read or heard this story or watched a TV program on that story?
Yes. I read it.
No.
No?
I read it.
So there is a very, okay, go ahead, you tell everybody about what that is.
So first, Vikramaditya is trying to get the Vetala's powers, and he's trying to bring the Vetala to become his own person. That's the one that's showing him with the sword and dragging a man. And the
Okay.
throne is showing him trying to ascend the 32 steps of a throne, but then he gets stopped by a voice and it says, answer these questions, only then can you climb the first step. And for every step it asks him a question.
Very good. But that is not Vikramaditya who is trying to climb the throne. Yeah. So the story goes like this. Actually, Betala is a later story. Singhasana one is the story that was older. So the story is, as Pratyusha said, story goes like this, that the king, not Vikramaditya, Bhoja, his name is Bhoja. King Bhoja would try to ascend a throne. There was a throne which was buried under mud and in a village, and children used to play, and whichever child would sit on top of that mound or that small hill, he would suddenly become wise. As soon as he would sit on top of the hill, he would become very wise and he would solve a lot of very complex problems. So when Bhoja heard about this, apparently he saw a dream that there is under that ground, under that hill, is buried a golden throne. So he digs that throne out, and it's a beautiful throne with 32 steps. On that throne, there are 32. There's a staircase with 32 steps, and on each step of the throne there is a statue, small statue. And as the Bhoja would try to climb each step, each statue would narrate a story, not ask a question, but narrate a story. Each story, the story that the statue will narrate is about another king, older time king called Vikramaditya. So after narrating the story of Vikramaditya, the statue would in the end ask Bhoja, do you think you are that brave or you are that capable as Vikramaditya? And Bhoja would explain the deeper meaning of the story, etc. And statue would say that absolutely you, I think, are equal in bravery to Vikramaditya. So he'll climb the next step, and then next story will happen. So like that, a collection of 32 stories is called Singhasan Dvatrimshati or Singhasan Battisi. Okay, and that again, just like Panchatantra, Hitopadesha, and Jataka Katha, this collection of 32 stories is also very, very widely popular even outside India. Okay, so that collection of story traveled to places like Mongolia, East Asia, China, etc. Very popular. And then second story that you see on the picture you see on the right, that is actually one of the stories of those 32. Out of those 32 stories of Singhasana Battisi, one of these stories is about Betala. So Betala is a ghost. Okay, and Vikramaditya, king, for there is some purpose why he is asked by his minister or tantrika to bring that ghost for doing something. Vikramaditya at night goes and catches hold of that ghost, and he's trying to bring him back. Ghost would tell a story to King Vikramaditya on one condition, that you simply hear the story but you will not speak. At the end of the story, Betala or the ghost would ask king something like a riddle which is in the story itself. Why did something happen like that? And then he says that if you don't know the answer, okay, if you know the answer and if you don't say, then your head would bust. But if you speak, I will go back to my tree. And since Vikramaditya is so wise, he knows the answer, of course, and because he is truthful and he has agreed to hearing the story, he will have to say the answer. So again, so this collection of story is called Vikrama Vaital collection of stories. Okay, you should all. I think it's fun. You search on YouTube. You will get both of these collection of stories made by several different creators. Lot of content on YouTube, and those are very enjoyable also. And those of you who have seen this magazine called Chanda Mama, now it doesn't come, but maybe look for this magazine Chanda Mama. Some old issues of Chanda Mama are available on internet. Enjoy those stories. And one of the constant features in the Chanda Mama magazine was the Vikramaditya and Betal story. Okay. So Vikramaditya is a legendary king. Of course, only for the legendary kings are these stories made. Do you remember some king here and some king there? No. Vikramaditya must have been a very, very great king. And he indeed was. The unfortunate part is that our modern history teaches that there was no such king as Vikramaditya. It is simply a made up story. There is no history behind it, they say. And Professor R.C. Majumdar was the first brave historian who dispelled this notion. He wrote a lot of research papers establishing that actually Vikramaditya was not just a story, but an actual real king who became so successful that all the later kings remember Vikramaditya. And in fact, there are so many kings later from Gupta time all the way to much later in Vijayanagara time who call themselves Vikramaditya. Okay, so without a basis, it is very hard for such a legend to become so popular, right? So Professor R.C. Majumdar, with a lot of sources and evidence, and comparing so many other world events where calendars are created and how the events initially would be less known, but eventually it would become documented. He gave us the history of Vikrama Samvat. Okay, I'll share that Professor R.C. Majumdar's work and you can read about that. So in brief, the story goes like this, that in the Ujjayana, okay, in the Ujjayana city, Ujjaini city, there was a king called Gardabhilla. Just after the Shunga empire had been over, and again, as one dynasty comes to an end, the territory and the kingdom that they controlled starts disintegrating. So after the Shunga empire had been finished by Kanva. Kanva was the name of that minister who assassinated the last king of Shunga dynasty and became the king. So when he had become the king in Ujjain and this area, this Gardabhilla, this king had become independent. He was perhaps initially an employee of Shunga, but he became independent. This person Gardabhilla, we read in some Jaina stories and in Puranas, he was not a very nice person. He had usurped power, became a king of Ujjaini. There was a minister in Gardabhilla's cabinet who was a Jain person. Okay, his name was Kalacharya. So this Kalacharya, he had a sister who was very pretty, and Gardabhilla liked her, but she was a nun. She had become a Jain nun. Okay, Gardabhilla still abducted her and forcibly married her. So her brother, who was Kalacharya, he left Ujjaina. He went to northwest. He went to Gandhar, where he took employment of the Shaka king there. As I said just before, that Shaka had eventually, after joining Parthians, they had slowly usurped all the area in the west of Indus River, in modern day Pakistan, parts of Afghanistan, etc. And slowly Greeks had lost power and Shaka had become powerful in that area. So this Jain person, he took employment there, and slowly he incited and united Shaka against this king Gardabhilla. And he was of course very wise and cunning and clever. So he ultimately architected the whole invasion to Ujjaini. Result was that Gardabhilla was killed, and Shaka became powerful, and their rule extended all the way into central India, Ujjaini. Ujjaini is in Madhya Pradesh, okay, on the borders to Gujarat. So entire Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, this area came under the control of Shaka. So Shaka started ruling, and Gardabhilla had a son, very young son. His name was Vikrama. So this Vikrama, he went, of course, away from Ujjaini, and for several years, he created an army. He raised an army, and ultimately he reconquered Ujjaini, freed up Ujjaini from Shakas, and Shakas were expelled, and he established the rule of Dharma once again in Ujjaini. Okay, so that's the story. And this event, when Vikramaditya or Vikrama, he actually expelled the Shakas, that event happened around 58 BCE. Okay, and that became the beginning of the Vikrama Samvat. And that event is the marker, very important event in the Hindu history, when Vikramaditya defeated the Shakas, and that is remembered as Vikrama Samvat. Okay, and then he ruled he and his several generations ruled after that for about 120, 130 years or so, and then again Shaka Samvat, which, as you know, is 78 years after BCE, right, in the Common Era. So 78 in that year 78, Shakas once again invaded, and Shakas conquered Ujjaini once again. Okay, so Shaka again conquering Ujjaini. That second event is the beginning of the Shaka Samvat or Shakabda Samvat. So again, I don't want you to carry the impression that these Shaka or Parthians or later in the next class we'll talk about Kushan or Hoon much later, that these people are some horrible people. They actually are not even properly foreigners. They are for sure not native Indians, but they were native Indians. Their ancestors were native Indians. It's more like coming back. So I don't want you to carry the impression that they were extremely alien people. They were not. Most of them were either Hindus or I'm just struggling for the word because I don't want to call Buddhists as non-Hindus. So they were either Vaidika people or Buddhist people. Okay, most of them. As you have seen, some of them were actually extremely Hinduized. I can use that word. In names, their names are properly Indian names, their dress, their language. The coins tell us a lot about these people, Shakas, etc. Okay. Any questions so far?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
So you said that before historians believed that the legend of Vikramaditya was just a fake and it was just a story until Majumdar sir proved it wrong. But why did historians believe that the legend of Vikramaditya was fake?
So the historians we are talking about are mostly the British and European historians.
Oh, okay.
These British historians, they have the tendency of not believing whatever is written in the Indian native texts like Purana or Mahabharata. Okay, so if they have a very slight, smallest misconception and misunderstanding about what Purana says, they would immediately say Purana itself is wrong. It is simply a fiction. It is written several centuries later. It is not accurate, not trustworthy. So they would not take the facts mentioned by the Puranas as true at all. And that actually is was the main reason why we had so much confusion about timelines, chronology, events of the ancient India. But if we sympathetically and with faith, okay, I'm not saying not critically, okay, don't for a minute think that I'm saying that we should not be critical. We should be extremely critical, very scientific. But being scientific and critical doesn't mean not having faith, okay? So there are two different things. So if you read properly Mahabharata, Ramayana, Purana, you will see that there is quite a huge amount of fact in those, which cannot be simply brushed aside as the British and European historians used to do. Okay, so we should be very thankful, very grateful to our own historians like Bhandarkar, Majumdar, etc., to once again interpret for us how do we extract the facts out of Purana, Mahabharata, Mahabhashya, etc. Okay, any other question?
I have one.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know that scientist who said that Vikramaditya was a real king and he actually lived.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, what was his evidence? Like, how did other people believe it?
Yeah, that's a very good question actually. What was his evidence? His evidence were two or threefold. First of all, he showed that Indians have been referring to this date from a very, very old time. They may not call it by the name Vikram Samvat. Okay, so you should understand that. Vikram Samvat, this name itself came later. At least in the inscription and the records, this this title is found perhaps in 8th century, Vikrama Samvat, this name. But Majumdar said that for a moment, forget about the name for a minute. Just look at the calendar itself. So we have the records from very, very old time referring to this date. Okay, this calendar year, whatever the name of that calendar, forget the name of the calendar. But this calendar itself that started 57 BCE, that dating has been referred to in a huge number of inscriptions and in a very, very wide area, entire Northwest India, proper North India, Central India, East India. You see inscriptions referring to that calendar year from a very wide sources, number one. So if that calendar is referred to by so many times, by so many people throughout centuries, it must have been something important. It must have been some really, really important event that is being referred to. Okay. Now, second thing, he compared then that with the other calendars also. So he said, for example, look at your modern calendar itself, modern Western calendar. Yes, Gregorian, which it is known as. When is the first time that you hear this word Gregorian used, for example? And he showed the documents that even if you say that this calendar started from the birth year of Jesus Christ, when is for the first time that you start using this term Gregorian? Several centuries later. And same thing for any other calendar. You would start using a calendar, but the name to calendar might happen in records later. So that was his second argument, which says it is nothing strange or unique in case of Vikrama Samvat. It would have been a calendar. It would have been remembered as the great event of Vikramaditya, but in the record you found it later, which is not strange at all. Then third, he showed the consistent records of the Jaina literature and many of the Puranas who talk about this whole event of when the Shaka invaded and conquered Ujjaini, and then after a few years they were expelled. All of that is mentioned by several sources. Okay, and then out of that he constructed that it cannot just be coincidence that your calendar started from that year and these events also happened in that year. It cannot be just a coincidence. Both the things would be actually related. Both the events would be the same event. So that was his third argument, and very convincing argument. So now most of the historical literature accepts that, only they still do not completely agree on identity of King Vikramaditya. Now nobody says that Vikramaditya was not a real king. Now they say that for sure it was a king, but which king, which dynasty, who was his father, who was his son, etc. There they have still some disagreements. Some say that he was actually a Shatavahana, which you have not yet heard about. He was perhaps a Shatavahana king. Some others say that he was perhaps not one king but multiple kings, which became in the imagination one king. So it was definitely a king, but not one king, but more than one kings. So those kind of theories still exist. Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like Charlie, question. But what are your comments and thoughts about the part when they said that Vikramaditya was fake?
My thought. So I completely agree with and am convinced by Professor R.C. Majumdar's stand. And what I will do as a homework, it's a very small brief that he wrote. He wrote actually lot of papers on this topic only. It was during his student days he started doing this. So I will share one 5-page paper, I think 5 or 7-page paper, but the first 5 pages or so will give you his argument of why Vikram Samvat, Vikramaditya was a king, and Vikram Samvat started with his expelling the Shaka from Ujjaini. So let's proceed.
I have a question.
Okay, yeah.
When are we gonna talk about the?
Cannot hear you. Speak louder, please.
When are we gonna do the project information stuff?
Yeah, after a few minutes. That was your question? Okay. So let's talk about another important topic for today. Shatavahana, also known as Andhras. Okay, so that on the map in the slide where you see that pink colored area, right from the western shore of the India, touching the Arabian Sea, and on the eastern shore in Bay of Bengal, northwards touching Gujarat and southern part of Madhya Pradesh, so just below Tapti, Narmada rivers, and in south going up to Krishna river. This whole area was ruled for a very long time, almost more than 400 years, by a very great dynasty called Shatavahana. Okay, Shatavahana, also known as Andhras. Okay, so in fact our Puranas always call them Andhras. Andhra tribe is mentioned by Puranas. So the history of Shatavahana or the Andhras is that they were perhaps officers of Maurya Empire, and towards the end of the Maurya Empire, after Ashoka, etc., when the Maurya Empire started disintegrating, they established themselves as the kings. So the first king is mentioned as Simuka, and again Simuka, there are various spellings, various types of taking that name is mentioned in many sources, but Puranas call him Simuka, and again dates also are a little bit here and there, but it can vary from like 2nd century, just after Ashoka, to perhaps just after Shunga. So about discrepancy of 100 years is there in when that first king of Shatavahana was there. But important to know that this dynasty that ruled such a very, very large empire, which today would be like the state of Gujarat, Maharashtra in the east, entire Telugu speaking area, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, northern Karnataka, etc., parts of Madhya Pradesh, parts of Odisha. This whole empire was a very powerful, wealthy, and most importantly, happy empire for a very long time. Okay, so we hear the names such as Gautami Putra Shatakarni. So name you see somewhere in between there. Yeah, Gautami Putra Shatakarni was the very powerful and very famous king in that dynasty. Gautami Putra Shatakarni. His mother's name was Gautami. Therefore, he was called Gautami Putra. So these kings, Andhras, they were master builders, and they were also very artistic. Okay, so some of the cave temples, you heard about these cave temples of Pallavas in Tamil Nadu when Bharat Chandrasekharanji gave his talk. You understood that. But the cave temples started much before those deep south cave temples. So some of the oldest cave temples found are from the Shatavahana time and their territory. Okay, so Nashik cave temple, Elephanta, all of these famous, and also in Andhra, a lot of cave temples, they all start from Shatavahanas. Okay, remember that. Shatavahanas also were good writers themselves. So there is this famous, very famous collection of poems called Gatha Satasai. Gatha Satasai, written by a king called Hala. Okay, King Hala wrote Gatha Satasai. In Sanskrit, it means Gatha Saptashati, 700 poems. Gatha is one of the meters in Prakrit. Okay, so King Hala wrote this Gatha Satasai, and it is such beautiful, such beautiful poems. These are mostly romantic poems, and so strikingly beautiful that it is a shame that we do not even study. Forget about study. Many of the Indians do not even know the name of Gatha Satasai or its writer Hala. So we know so much about Kalidasa, etc. But do we know about Hala? Hardly. So Gatha Satasai, so beautiful. So two samples that are written there of two poems. Take the second poem. My braided hairs not straight yet, and you again speak of leaving. Such a small poem, 2-line, beautiful poem. Yeah. So like that, 700 such poems are in that Gatha Satasai. Then there is one more very important literary milestone of India is Brihat Katha. Brihat Katha literally is made up of two words. Brihat means great or vast, and Katha, as you know, story. So the vast story, Brihat Katha. So the Brihat Katha is an epic, also written in the Prakrita language, of a different kind, Paishachi Prakrita or Ghost Prakrita. So we haven't yet been able to totally decipher that Paishachi Prakrita. Okay. In fact, this Brihat Katha is not fully available. It is only available in fractions. Reason being because that language perhaps was not understood by everybody. But still, what we know about Brihat Katha is that it's a great, great epic which talks about very miraculous stories where there was a queen who was picked up by a great bird. That bird picks up while she was taking bath or going around somewhere. The huge bird comes, picks her up, carries her away to an island. She starts living at island, and she was pregnant. She there gives birth to a boy. That boy is the hero of this Brihat Katha. And inspired by that epic and that whole style are so many other later works in Sanskrit language. So Katha Sarit Sagar, I think that's one of the very important Sanskrit works that was written much later, several centuries later. But Katha Sarit Sagar, which means the river and ocean of stories. So Katha Sarit Sagar is inspired by Brihat Katha, and similarly Brihat Katha Manjari and so many, at least a dozen other works also, they come from this Brihat Katha only. So Brihat Katha was written by the great Shatavahana called Gunadhya. Okay. Any questions, comments about Shatavahanas so far? And they are often,
Mom.
yeah, go ahead.
Why was he called after his mom?
What was that? Say again.
Why was he called after Gautami?
Oh, why was he called after Gautami? His mother's name was Gautami. So it is several times in the Indian history you would see that people are remembered by their mothers. So many times there are so many such names where you would apply the name of the mother in the reference to the person. Okay. So in fact there was one more king in the same dynasty who is called, after that you see, after Gautami Putra you have Vashishti Putra. Okay, so Vashishti was the name of this king's mother, so he's called Vashishti Putra. And Gautami was a great queen, by the way, so not mentioned in those bullet points, but she was a very important administrator and queen also of that kingdom. So there are a lot of coins, lot of inscriptions, lot of textual references found of Shatavahanas. A very great king called Shalivahana. Again, just like Vikramaditya, there are so many myths around Shalivahana, but Shalivahana is one of the Shatavahanas himself. Okay, and what does this Shali or Shata mean? For that also there is a lot of discussion, but clearly these are very old, ancient names and people who are very established in our textual references. Okay, no other question, then we'll get into the project discussion. So first thing, can you go to open this browser, tinyurl.com/ih2020 student. Basically I want to once again divide you into teams, so go ahead and open that. It will open up like this. Can somebody tell me it's opening for you?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and start filling up for
Can
yourself.
we go back to the page with the link on it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you put the link in chat?
Yes, good idea. Who was that?
Amog.
Amog. You people are very smart. Why am I not so smart?
One question. So it says grade in August 2020. Does that mean like the grade we're going to?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Rishi, on the form it says your team. Is that our past project?
Yeah, you first, for now you enter your original team. I'm sure some of you would jump teams.
So I'm right now. I'm not on my electronic. I'm with my brother. What do I do?
What's that?
Right now, I'm not on my own electronic, and I'm doing the class on my brother's computer with my brother, so I don't know what to do.
you enter it twice for your brother and yourself both. So we just want to balance the teams and then assign the topics to each team and talk about next steps.
It just said you never told us which team we're on.
When I put in my number, it says that it's like not valid or something.
Your phone
Don't
number?
add the
Yeah.
slash thingy.
Just keep it numbers, no signs.
It says you need to put it. It says you need to sign in.
No, you don't have to sign in. No sign in required.
It's saying while I'm typing my phone number, it's saying that must.
Don't add any signs, only numbers.
Just numbers.
Yeah, I did that.
What is saying?
You put a space.
Oh wait, never mind.
Okay.
It's asked for your
Done?
email.
All of you done? Anybody not done yet?
I haven't
No, I'm
started.
I'm not done.
Can you reshare? Never mind.
It's in chat.
I'm not. It's asked for your Hotmail or Gmail account.
No, it should not ask. No need.
But it says like sign in or something.
No, it should not. Something is wrong.
I think you need a Google Mail, a Gmail account to use it.
You do? I don't think so. Anybody not done yet?
Then get my phone. Okay.
It keeps coming up for me.
Yeah, it's probably because you don't have a Gmail account.
If you don't
Can
have
you?
a Gmail account, use your parents' Gmail account.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, but I don't know the password though.
Ask them.
I would assume you are done. Who is not done? Please tell me.
Me.
Who is me?
I'm done. Sarah.
Sarah, you are not done?
No.
Okay, you give me your, what's your last name, Sarah? Sarah, what's your last name?
It's Jabudka.
Okay, just give me answers. I'll type here for you.
Oh no, I'm filling it out right now.
Okay, you are filling. Good. So I got 18 students already done. How many are left? I'll just wait for 1 more minute and then we have to move. So let's see. 4 Bhandarkar, 2 Jadunath, 4 Majumdar. Let me share my screen.
Where's the link?
It's in chat. Okay, done. Anybody left?
On
Okay.
me.
Let's. Which team is light? Jadunath is light. And Neelkantha is little bit light. Not really. Only Jadunath is light. And Majumdar is heavy. So Jadunath is Patyusha and Saurish. So you folks need One high schooler. Where are all my high schoolers gone today? There's no high schooler today. What happened? Shwetam was there. Where is Shwetam gone? Where is?
Oh yeah, my network wasn't working, so like.
So you didn't enter your details there?
No, I couldn't. Where
Now
do
you are
do it?
doing?
Yeah, I'll do it now.
Today we are light anyway. I think only 4 or 5 high schoolers came. Okay, so what I'm going to do, Shriya, I will change your team. Sitaram, actually Sitaram, yeah, 2 high schoolers in Sitaram, right? Shriya, it's okay if I switch you
Yeah,
to
that's fine.
some other team?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I'll switch you to Jadunath. Okay. And so now okay, give this 1 more minute, but let's come back. So you got the teams. I will put your names right now on this slide so that there is no confusion about who is in which team. Okay. Now, what are the projects? What are we going to do? And how are we going to do it? So here are the 5 topics proposed. You must have heard this word, read this word, South Asia, so many times in your history books, in your other human geography or the social sciences books. South Asia. What is South Asia? And whether that's an appropriate label to use for history of India. You see, they don't want to use this word India. They want to call it South Asia. Okay. What do you people feel about that? Is that normal thing? Is that mischievous thing? Is that healthy thing? And above all, is that a natural and accurate and appropriate thing?
Not natural.
It
And it's
always
not
makes
fair.
it very confusing for my classmates and I to like decide like exactly what countries the teacher's talking about when they say South Asia. Like you don't really know what they're referring to. Sometimes they're referring to India. Sometimes they're referring to like southern parts of China. It makes it confusing and it's not really accurate to what the teacher's thinking in their mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so by South Asia, they are really referring to India, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, perhaps Afghanistan. Basically, what was India in the colonial times before the partition of India, whatever was that geography, plus Nepal, etc. That's what they are referring to as South Asia. But the problem is, for example, when you say America, what do you mean by America? When somebody says
The whole
America,
American.
The whole
both
50
continents.
US
52 states.
The states.
Yeah, but is Canada not America? Is Mexico not America? Is Brazil not America? Of course, America is the whole continent. But in addition to the continent, the name of country is United States of America. But even then, they call it America. American Revolution, American culture, American history. So America word is appropriated for United States of America. You understand the difference between America and United States of America?
Yeah.
But they want to use it synonymously. In the popular literature, America means United States of America. When America word you hear, do you ever think of Mexico or Canada or Panama or Honduras or any of these countries?
No.
They're all America. But no, America means United States of America. Same thing they want to not give to India. India from very, very ancient times word India has denoted this whole geography of India, which may not be political union of India today. So Union of India is the official name of the country called India, where we come from, correct? But the Indian geography, culture, history, civilization is more than just the Union of India. It's more the Republic of India. It's more than that. It's it includes the larger geography, which has been traditionally in the history referred always as India. So why would they not use this word India to refer to what they are referring as South Asia? That's the question. And is it even accurate? So I think this project is about making an argument with data and facts, showing number one, the tradition of this word India and how it is used throughout the history all the way up to 1960s and 70s by academicians to refer to the larger India in the historical sense, civilizational sense, including pieces of Pakistan, Bangladesh, etc. They were referred as India even after partition. But then why they are now calling it South Asia? This project is about doing that analysis. So I would say team Bhandarkar or Jadunath should pick this up. I will assign which team will pick up what. But let's say your team has to pick up this first project. I hope you are clear about what we are doing. We are writing an essay in a very academic sense. And separately with your team, I will go over how to structure it, what should be the flow, what should be some of the questions you have to research on, where will you find the data to refer to, how do you search for that data. I will go over that with you. Okay. Second topic is also very interesting. A study in Panchatantra, and you will do some research about comparing the stories of Panchatantra with stories of the Western collection of fables, such as Aesop's stories and Grimm's fairy tales, or Sindbad, and you know, Ali Baba and all those stories. And you will write an essay about the travel of these ancient Indian stories around the world and how those were adopted, in what shape and form they were adopted, what changes were made, etc. So that's the whole study of stories in that project. Third is a little more action oriented. It is also very political. The Indian heritage in the world museums. So again, not all, there are hundreds of museums. You cannot cover all the museums. So we'll pick up perhaps 3, maybe 5 at most museums, important big museums, including a couple of museums in US. So I'm thinking we'll pick up the famous museum in Paris, the famous London Museum. We'll pick up Smithsonian's in Washington, DC, Cleveland Museum of Art, and maybe one more museum, or just these 4 actually will give you quite a lot. Okay, and what we are going to do, we are going to study the artifacts of Indian history which are kept there. And again, that number will be also in hundreds, literally, I'm not joking, hundreds. So you cannot study everything. So we will pick up samples. And what we will study is how come those artifacts are belonging in a museum. And especially we will focus on some shady articles which they have got recently. Recently, when I say recently, I mean 1970s or 60s. Okay. So on one hand, we will do this field work, of course, sitting from home using internet. And on the other, we will study law. We will study a little bit of how other countries with a lot of civilization like Egypt, etc., what is their stand and what they have done, and above all, what can be done by us to claim some of the heritage and bring it back to Indian control. Okay, so that's the third project. Before I proceed, any comments on the first 3? Did you understand the objective?
I understand the objective, but which team is doing which?
That I will assign. Once everybody has filled up their form, at random we will assign, don't worry.
So, are we supposed to like write a paper or make a presentation?
Yes, both. So product will be write a paper. As a team, you will write a paper. So there will be a structure. So each academic paper in history follows this particular very restrictive in structure flow. So I will tell you how to write, what is the first thing to be written, what is the next thing to be written, how to cite a reference, how to do what is called a literature survey. I will tell you all of that. But product is number one, an academic paper, properly written paper. And you can divide within your team sections so that you can focus your energy on one section. And then at least one high schooler, sometimes more, will be in each of these teams. And I propose to assign one team leader to each team. Okay, so that team leader can coordinate and be the general editor of that paper and give that a good shape. We can review, of course, offline and give that ultimate product as the paper. That's one. And two, finally, we will make a presentation. So each team will get, let's say, 20 minutes to make a presentation of what they did. Okay, so presentation is nothing but that paper presented in a presentable form. Okay. So next one, third one is we can pick up any dynasty, doesn't matter. I picked up Shungas because Shungas, somehow I like Shunga dynasty very much. Within 100 years, they did a lot of stuff. So what we want to do is study Purana and dramas like Banas and Kalidasas and other sources, including Greek and Latin sources, what they say about Shunga. It could have been Maurya also, it could have been Shatavahana also, but let's pick up one dynasty, Shunga, and compare them and try to create a timeline, a chronology of this dynasty, important personalities, important events such as wars or ascensions to the throne or assassinations, indeed, just like the last king of Shunga was assassinated. So creating that chronology of events, understanding any other conflicts which are found internally within these texts. One Purana says something, other Purana says something else. So how do you resolve that kind of a conflict? What are the techniques you can use to verify which one is more accurate than the other? So that kind of a research. And of course, I don't expect you to be able to read original Sanskrita. So we shall rely upon the translations. But when using translations, we shall make an effort to refer to the original Sanskrit and verify. I will help you do that also. Ultimately, we shall produce a paper that describes the point of view on Shungas as evident from these traditional, very old sources. Make sense? Last one is also very action-packed. So especially high schoolers and those of you who are in 8th grade and have seen the textbooks already for the middle school, you have to identify a few, maybe 3 or 4, just 3 or 4 high-level misrepresentations, problematic things you see in your history book. And for high schoolers, those of you who have taken AP Word History, I know at least 2 or 3 of you have already taken and you are offline talking to me about those things. So where you see, let's say 3 key high level, just identify 3 problem areas. When I say problem, it is basically that your textbook says something, but that something is not accurate or that's not precisely representing, correctly representing the Indian tradition. So identify those and then write a critique of those, what textbook says and what it should have been. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Any questions about the topics before we align the teams and the topics together? No? Okay, good.
I have a question for the
Yeah.
last one.
Mhm.
I didn't I mean this fourth one
Hmm.
in that I didn't understand what that was, the fourth one.
Fourth one. So, for example, it gives you in your history textbooks the description of India that it gives you. Uh, for example,
In our
take the example of um, Indus Valley civilization. So, in your world history textbook, Indus Valley civilization is described. It perhaps is 3 or 4 page worth of content. If you read that Indus Valley civilization description, immediately you will come up with questions which are real questions. You say, hey, I heard something else in this program, but my textbook says something else. Similarly, after the Indus Valley civilization, there is another chapter in your history textbook for Indo-Aryans, okay, or so-called Aryan invasion theory. So when you read that, you will again realize some challenges in the how history is presented. Okay, that is what I mean by problems in your textbook. Or even much more modern time period, it would refer to caste and things like those. Those are also problem. As soon as you read those textbooks, you will realize immediately. I don't need to give you examples.
they're always about caste system.
Exactly. So that is a problem. Why is it so much about caste system? Does nobody else have a caste system? Is it only
Well,
an Indian feature? Or on the other hand, is it so bad that they are kind of just harping on it?
Like think about the
It only
thing
says
that happened in Germany, like how they did that to the Jewish.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, sure, but we need to connect it to Indian history. Okay, so it should be in context of Indian history, but that's a very
they never
important
talk
one.
about the feudal system in Europe.
Exactly. So they should, right? Why is that double standard? So I'm trying to. Everybody
now
done? I hope everybody is done.
it was Indian.
Everybody is done.
Yeah.
Anybody left? Please raise your hand right now.
Okay, I'm left.
Who is left?
Me. Now.
What's your name?
Pratyusha.
You're not in any team?
No, I can't see myself. Jadu.
Uh, what has happened? Why? There we go. Okay, there we go. So Bhandarkar 5, Jadunath 3, Majumdar 6. Okay, so Majumdar, let's see. Majumdar has so many people, but no high schooler. Bhandarkar also has no high schooler. Okay. Bhandarkar, Majumdar need high schoolers. And Jhansi, I'm going to switch you to Jadunath team. Okay. Shwetam. Shwetam is going to Sitaram. Neelkant has a high schooler and Neelkant has 5 people, which is fine. Where are other high schoolers? There are only 4 high schoolers I can see. What happened to other 10 people? Okay, That's the team. So Bhandarkar team. I will assign a high schooler to you. Don't worry. Shubham, where is your sister? She is not joining. Shubham.
He has like a different classes right now.
Okay, is she going to do the project or not? Ask her. She can be in your team. Okay, Jadunath, more people required.
One question. So, what if what if a person in your team, like right now, there's one person in our team that who was never like part of the team, like never came to anything.
Don't worry.
So
Yeah, we have a person in our team who never joined.
Okay, don't worry. They are gone. They're all gone. Those who are not joining are not joining anymore. Classes also.
no, but it was Shubham.
No, Shubham will join. Shubham, you will work on the project, right?
He wasn't here last time.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Don't worry. He will work. He will work. Okay, so that's the team. There will be 1 or 2 changes, but that's the team. So let me mention your names.
Can we leave now?
Yes.
Another class. So I have to.
I created.
Okay, no worries. What I will do, I will put your names and I will send this in the WhatsApp group. Who is in which team? And what I will do completely at random, maybe in the same order, these projects will be assigned to you. And I will nominate one team coordinator, team leader for the whole team. And what you should do is today or definitely tomorrow, create a Google Hangout group for your team. Or emails are mentioned. Create a Google Hangout group. And for each team separately, I would like to show you the methodology of how to do your specific research. Where will you find the sources? And I will share some content also, flow of how to do it. So I know your schools, for many of you have started, but can you people spend like half an hour talking about the project with me? So I can do that perhaps tomorrow. If it works tomorrow or Monday, I can spend half an hour separately, just with your team, so that I can share details of how to go about it. Yeah. So is there anybody who doesn't want to do project? Project, I think, will kind of bring it all together. It will give you the actual experience of applying your knowledge.
Uncle, I had a question. When is this due?
It will be due on 12th of September. So last class is when I propose we should finish doing this, and maybe we should present it to the parents and others in the final class.
I'm not sure if I'll probably do it, but I might have some plans over the weekend. Like it's gonna be the long weekend apparently. That's what my dad said. So we might go.
Same for me.
Yeah, weekend is fine, but this is not just the weekend work, right? The work itself will be.
So I'll do as much as I can, but I probably won't be able to do as much as everyone else.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Any other questions, thoughts?
Also, so like the written paper, what format would you like it in?
I will provide you the format. There are 2 or 3 different academic standards. Okay, so I will give you the template of what format to follow, how the reference citation should happen.
Okay.
What you should do first, what should you do next. But I will share that separately in each team meeting. Okay.
And so where will you send? And so are you gonna send like? So are you gonna talk to each team separately? Like where are you gonna send the links for that?
Links will be in the WhatsApp group. What I'm saying, the meeting itself will be separately.
Okay.
Yeah, because the discussion will be very specific to the topic. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So just one more thing. So in addition to this project, it will take some time from you, and it will I promise it will be very good learning experience and exciting experience also. In addition to that, as final product, final deliverable, I'm thinking we should make a maybe 1 minute video or maybe 2 minute video on what was that? Flipgrid, where you kind of apply what you learned into whatever topic you choose, and I can give you suggestion of maybe dozen topics. Just talk about it or say something about it. That shows that you have picked up the concepts and you have done your homework, you have researched about it. Very easy topics which will not require you to read much. You already know them. So for example, Angkor Wat presentation was made last week by Jhansi. It was such a crisp presentation in I think 2-3 minutes. Make a presentation or make a recording of your own simply talking about something, or if nothing else, you can talk about what you have learned. Simply just mention the important topics you learned in this program that we can use, and we can stitch those videos together, and that can become for you a very memorable time. You can watch that video later, but it will be like you can say at the end of the class you take a class photo, right? That kind of a collage of video can become that class photo. And if you don't want to talk about a topic, you can simply talk about what you learned, how you felt about the class, and things like those. Any comments on that?
This is like really messing up the spin here.
Okay, so if nothing else, then we can end the class. Can we do the Shanti Mantra? So please unmute yourself, join your palms, and close your eyes. Say after me. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina.
Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina.
Sarve Santu Niramaya.
Sarve Bhavantu Niramaya.
Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu.
Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu.
Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet.
Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhavet.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Namaste everyone.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.